Alright, math students, we're moving on to the next part of chapter 4. We have 4.3b. We're going to be graphing points on a coordinate grid. Now, maybe you've done this before, which is fine. This is just kind of a review lesson, or maybe you haven't. That's okay. I'll show you how to do it. We need to know this so that we can move on to the last part of chapter 4. Okay, so graphing points on a coordinate grid. A coordinate grid, it looks kind of like this. It's basically just like a graph. And if you notice down here, the horizontal lines going this way that are numbered, this is what they call the x-axis. Okay, in math, this is the x-axis. These are the lines that go horizontal. And then the lines that go vertical, this one right here, is the y-axis. Alright? And we graph points on this graph like locations. Like if this was a map, we would graph different locations, different points on here. And we use coordinates that look like this right here. Okay, these are points that we are going to put on this graph. And how these are graphed is it goes like this. Okay, we have these numbers inside these parentheses. And your first number is the x number, the x coordinate, and the second number is your y number, the y coordinate. Okay, so x comes first and then y. So if we were going to graph this point down here, 3, 4, alright, we have to start right here at 0 at the beginning of our graph, and we're going to go over this way 3 because that's our x, and then we would go up 4, and that's where we would put our first point. That's 3, 4. That's the location of this coordinate on the graph. Okay, because we went over to 3 for x, and then we went up over here on the y-axis to 4. That would be our first point. Alright? If we have 5, 8, we start right here again. We would go over to 5, and then go up to 8, and then we would put our second point. Okay, one way to think about this that I like to use is you start right here and you always walk to the elevator, and then you take the elevator up to where you need to go. Okay, that's one way I think about it. So let's take a look at this next point. 2, 4, we're going to graph that, so we're going to start here, walk to the elevator, take the elevator up to 4, and that's where we're going to put our point. Here's another example, 4, 6. We'd start here. We would walk over to 4. And then we would take the elevator up to 6. Alright, 0, 7. Check this one out. So we're going to start here at 0, but we're not going to go anywhere on the x because it is 0. So we're not going to go anywhere this way because I don't have a number going this way. It stays at 0, but I am going to go up to 7, and that's the point I'm going to go to there. Okay, next coordinate I got is 5, 0, so I'm going to start here. I'm going to go over to 5, but I can't go up or down, so it's going to stop right there. Okay, so there's our first set of points that we're graphing. Let's take a look at another style of coordinate grid. This one is going to have some negative numbers, okay? And notice it's broken. We have some negative numbers over here, and this coordinate grid is broken into 4 different parts, alright? And in the math world, we call these 4 different parts quadrants, and they like to label them, give numbers to each one of these. Like this first area right here, this is quadrant 1, and they like to use Roman numerals to label it, quadrant 1, and all the points that go in this quadrant are all going to be, your x is going to be positive and your y is going to be positive. Okay, each one of these coordinates are going to be positive. For example, if we had 2, 2. Alright, so if we were going to graph 2, 2 there, we would go over here, start at 0, go to 2, and then go up to 2. Okay, both those numbers are positive. Then we jump over here and we have quadrant number 2 is what it's labeled. And the coordinates in this quadrant are your x is negative and your y is positive. Okay, for example, if we had -2, comma 2. If we were going to graph this, we would start here at 0, we would go over to -2, and then we would go up to 2. Alright, that would be that's location. And then down here we have quadrant number 3, this area down here, and that we'll label that number 3 with a Roman numeral. And in this quadrant, both the x and the y are negative. So the x is negative and the y is negative. So we would have, for example, -2 and -2. So to graph that, we would start here at 0, go over to -2, and then go down to -2, and that would be that point. And the very last quadrant we have is quadrant number 4. In a Roman numeral, it would look like this. Okay, quadrant number 4. And in this quadrant, your x is going to be positive and your y is going to be negative. Okay, so 2, comma, -2. It would go right here. We would start here at 0, go to 2, down to -2. Alright, that's what those points would look like in those quadrants. Let's take a look at graphing some of these points down here. I have some examples for you. We'll start with 3, -4. So we start here at 0. We're going to go over to the x, walk over to the elevator to 3, and now this time we're going to take the elevator down to -4, and this would be our first point. Alright, then we have 5, comma 8.5. So we're going to start here at 0, go over to 5, and this time we're going to go up to 8.5, and notice we don't have an 8.5 listed, so we're just going to go halfway in between 8 and 9, because that would be 8.5. And I put that on the 6 instead of the 5. Let me erase that. We'll get that fixed up for you here real quick. There we go. 8.5 is going to be right there. Perfect. Alright, let's take a look at the next one. We have -2, 4.5. So I'm going to start at 0, go over to -2, and go up to 4.5. Again, we'll just put that halfway in between 4 and 5. I have -4, -6. Start at 0, over to -4, down to -6. 0, -7.5. So I'm at here at 0. I'm not going to go anywhere this way because the x is 0. And then I'm going to go down to -7.5 right there. Last one, -5, 0. This time I am going to go this way on the x to -5, but I'm not going to go either up or down. So it's just going to stay right like that. Alright?